making millions of dollars with their products or different products under one hood. There are majority, there are independent studios, smaller studios. So let's not get into the bigger ones because they have a different pipeline and there is a great hierarchy which decides which games go live, which games go into production, which games would make money for them. Let's talk about the mid-scale, smaller studios and a typical process how a game is made within these companies. Before we begin, just a shout out to everybody who's watching this stream. Abhishek, hi. Vijay, hello. Ashish, hi. Yash, welcome to the stream. I hope this 30-60 minutes, whatever we are going to spend here, I can give you a brief overview of how games are made in India. Right. So let's just wait for 2 more minutes so that people can join in. And we get into the process because I don't want people to miss out how it starts, right? Satish, hi, Paresh, excited for this. Even I am excited, guys. Again, just to give you a shout out, thanks for Crater.club. Thanks for inviting me here. Hello, Ankit. All right. Will we discuss on NFT gaming as well? Not in this session. We have a lot more to talk in this session. We will be covering that topic soon in coming sessions that we do. But because this is like a journey, you need to understand first how games are made. Then we can slowly get into the process, into more deep topics where we can discuss more on other topics as well. Right. So just to give you a brief understanding of how games are made, let's just first discuss about the same thing. I can just give you some information about it and why I would be able to do that. I'll just give you a brief background about myself. My name is Vaibhav. I'm the founder and CEO of Underdogs Studio LLP. We started Underdogs back in 2011 when there were hardly 30-40 companies, gaming companies in India. We're pretty huge in B2B and B2C also. In overall 10 years, we have made more than 250 games across different sectors for people around the world. And it just includes digital agencies, brands, movie production houses, and the bigger gaming companies. So these 4 sectors who require games every now and then, we are preferred game development studios in India, which help them build those games for different purposes. Like the digital agencies usually require games to promote their brands. They tie up with the brands and then they pitch that game to us and we make that game for them. Then the digital agency create campaigns over those brands and then they help them promote their brands. Similar thing happens with the movie production houses. We've created games for movies in India and outside India as well. We have we have done a game for Disney, which for a movie called Moana, which it's a 3D movie about a girl, right? So we made the official game for that. We have done Shubhamangal Savdan official game. Recent work we have done Coolie #1, which was one of those movies. So all this is a part of the business. It comes into B2B. When I say B2B, is basically business to business, right? And we are not giving it to the consumers, which is B2C, which is our own games that you can play on Google Play Store and Apple App Store, right? Shreyas, how is everything with you? Everything is great, fine, absolutely fun because we make games. Gaming portfolio I'll do that on my channel very soon, probably by this weekend only. You make games for movies? Yes, we make games for movies. A lot of movie production houses tie up with us to make these games. Okay, guys, a premise is set. Let's just get directly into the process. I want you guys to understand how a game is made, right? And who are the people who are involved. in this whole process. This could be like a brief introduction to all the roles and what people do in different different sections of this pipeline. But to be honest, there are a lot more hierarchies within these sectors that take care of smaller parts in this process, right? But let's just speak about the brief overview. So in a small or a mid-level company, usually the founders are very well involved in game making process, right? So what we do, like, let's just take for an example, Underdog Studios, or any independent studio that be it Nodding Heads, which is the developers of Raj, or Sigma Games, which made who made Bonfire, which was one of the biggest games again last year, right? So the founders usually are the ones who drive the idea, right? And this usually comes from a lot of research. We end up trying to figure out what category of game would suit our business, which kind of game can take this business ahead, right? So constant research and analysis goes on to figure out that one niche, that one category. Like for example, in 2014, we were doing smaller games, right? And then we figured out that parking games were doing really big in the Western markets, but there was no parking game in India which is focused on Indian market, right? So that was a loophole that we found out, and we thought parking is a genre which people really play a lot, right? So we made a game which is focused on Indian market, and we created a game called Parking Evolution 3D in 2014. That idea was initiated by the founders, by me and my core guys, right? We figured out that this is a loophole, this can be made into a game, and this game can make us money and position our company to, it can increase the valuation of the company overall. And then probably we might make clones of this game, which can become like a typical parking game, then it can become a bus parking game, then it can be a truck parking game, and we can then create a portfolio around it, something like that. Like that was a long-term vision that we had, right? And that is how this game came in place. The game made enough money for us and all this thing happened, but then the markets changed and we wanted to get into the global market. So we created another successful title which was directed towards the global market. That was Skatelander, which really changed the whole business model for us, and we grew like 10 times than what we were in 2015. So the ideation usually comes from the founders, right? The people who are very much connected in the industry, who are very much connected in the ecosystem. They know the trends, what is happening in the industry, which game is doing good, or what category of games are working, which platform works in which countries, and all that stuff, right? So that's how the ideation comes in place. Then there is a team of game designers. Now, game designer, this is the first piece of the whole puzzle, right? Game designers. Now, game designers, when you hear the word game designer, you instantly feel that designer is someone who draws stuff, right? Because we've been hearing about graphic designers a lot, so we feel that game designer is someone who might be creating something digital, right? But it's not the correct definition of a game designer. Game designer is basically a person who writes a game. Now, for a game designer, he just needs a pen and a paper. If you talk about soft copies, it would be just a document, a Word document, and a keyboard. That's it. A game designer, if you compare him with a movie production phase or a pipeline, a game designer is basically a writer of a movie, right? So he just writes the game. He writes the characters. He writes about the world how the character should look, what is his background, how does he walks, what are the obstacles, how would be the level progression, how would be the level, how would a person win the level, what happens if he fails the level, and everything. So a game designer's job is to write the complete game even before it goes into the production. So a game designer is basically a visionary guy who understands the challenges, who understands how people would react to certain stuff, and creates an interesting story, right? Um, and he does this on a simple Word document, right? So that's how it, the whole system is. Um, it starts with game designers, right? So the ideation is then shared with this team of game designers, where the game designers brainstorm on how to take this idea and detail it out, right? So when the founder, when the core team, I'm mentioning founder again and again, but let's just say the core team who is responsible for creation of ideas, they'll just give you the concept, right? The high level concept, like just in case of a parking game, it is a parking game which includes truck, bus, and a car. It has to have 100 levels. It needs to be set up in India or say US. Those are the high level pointers that the ideation team gives. Then the game designers detail it out step by step. How should level 1 look to how should level 100 will look. So everything on paper, right? That is the job of a game designer. Game designer needs to be a good visualizer. He needs to be a good communicator, and he needs to be a good writer. Now, these three things are important because when a game designer thinks about something, he thinks it by himself, right? And he has to share this data with the team of game programmers and artists and testers who are the next, pieces in this pipeline. So he needs to write the ideas down on paper in a beautiful way so that the teams, the artists and the programmers can understand and interpret the idea easily by just reading the document. This document is called as GDD. We also call it game design document. So a game designer basically writes a complete game in a game design document, which is a GDD, right? And the third thing that I mentioned, he needs to be a good communicator. Why? Because when he writes this thing, he needs to, explain this idea to the team of artists and programmers very well, right? He needs to tell them and have a communication every now and then to fix things within the game, right? He then, once he writes the game, he acts as a manager of that game, as a production guy, as a project coordinator or a project manager or everything that you can name. He is the whole and soul of taking care of this whole production. So the game design document written by a game designer is then given to the team of artists and programmers. Usually meetings happen when game designers basically explains the idea to everybody so that they can start working on it, right? So that is how it happens. And the game design document is given to the team of artists and the programmers. They go, they brainstorm internally, and then they start working on it. Now, what do they exactly start? Before getting into that, I'll just quickly check if we have any questions. Does your company deal with game making training for serious learners? We do that. It's called as gamification. We do it for bigger gaming companies or mostly non-gaming companies. We recently did something for CMA CGM, which is like an import and export business, where containers take goods from one part of the country to a different continent itself, right? So we did something for them where training is provided to them within a simple room. It's kind of a simulation. And we do a lot of things based on that, but it's only to big businesses. How to select which kind of game to make? Like I said, Sayed, it's majorly based on the research. It's, you need to completely be active on trends. You need to check what things are going on in the market. See, end of the day, if you are a hobbyist, you can make your own category of game that you love, whatever you want to make, right? It's basically your passion project that you need to make, right? You just you just have an idea and want to make it for your creative hunger, and you're not focusing on the commercial aspect of it. That's one category of a game maker you are, right? But if you are actually looking at making business or making money out of this game, you need to really understand that there has to be a lot of research and analysis around this whole thing. You need to really take a look at if this one particular concept can make you money or create business out of this whole thing, right? So there's a lot of research and analysis that has to go into this, right? Even before you think about an idea, you might have, like, you every day you come up with 100 different ideas, right? And everybody thinks his or her idea is the next big thing. That is, and that's the case with everybody, right? You think your idea is a kick-ass idea which is going to make you millions. It's fine, but that's not the truth. The fact is, you need to really check the data. You need to have a data-driven approach. There are plenty of tools out there, tools like App Annie, there is Sensor Tower. You need to go on that tools and check what are the trends, which games are performing well. Why do you think hyper casual right now is huge? Is because there's a lot of research that goes on in figuring out concepts or mechanics which are doing well in the market. So that's how you do it, basically, right? And if you're a hobbyist, you just want to make a game for fun. If you want to just fulfill your creative hunger and create an independent game, which gives you satisfaction, just go ahead and do anything that you want, right? Then have to skip this part of making money out of it. If you do, it's great. I'm not saying you can't do it. If you do, it's great. But to create a great revenue out of a game, you really need to put in a lot of research into the overall system. So coming back to my point of the second phase, when the game designer has already given the GDD and the description and all the details to the team of artists and programmers, how exactly do they start the process? So talking about the artists start creating the art assets. Now these people are the actual designers. So we don't call them designers in gaming, we call them game artists, right? Because game designers are don't want to get confused between the two. Game designers are the one who write it, and game artists are the people who actually create the art asset. Everything that you see in a game which is visual is created by the team of game artists, be it 2D or 3D, the 3D models that you see, the animations that you see, everything is created by these game artists. The qualification, if you ask me, you don't need a graduation or any sort of specific qualification to become a game artist. If it's digital, if you want to become a 3D artist, it's majorly skill-based work, wherein you need to know the softwares, and these softwares are like Max, 3D Maya, 3D Max, Maya, Blender, or ZBrush, and some of the texturing tools, right? So that's that's a set of tools that you need to know if you are you're dreaming of becoming a game artist. So these people start creating art assets step by step. So they'll create the characters, they'll create the environment, they'll create a lot of things here and there which are required. The UI elements, everything visual that you see in a game, they'll start making it. Now, game designer obviously have to keep a track of what they are making, and that is why I mentioned, right? He needs to be a good communicator. He needs to have good communication skills with these people so that he can easily, sometimes what happens is you're doing creative work, right? In gaming, everything is creative. Artist has his own style of doing creative stuff, right? Game designer has a different perspective of a kind of game that he wants to build. If an artist experiments with some kind of kind of art style, and the designer doesn't like it, he needs to have a good sense of diplomacy to even convince the artist to not go with that style, but that go with the requirement and stuff. So he needs to be very smart also when it comes to communication. So game artists is a team of people who work on digital tools: Photoshop, 3D Max, Maya, Blender, ZBrush, and a lot of tools which give you visual elements. Then comes the programmers. Now, artists and programmers work simultaneously. But you see the problem, right? The programmers can't code the game if they don't have the art. Then what do? When artists starts the art assets, at the same time, programmers start creating the prototypes. And instead of the characters, they use placeholders. So let's say if I'm making a Mario game and my artist is making Mario right now on Photoshop, my programmer will use a simple box which represents Mario, and he'll code the game. He'll put a simple plain background at the far end, and a square box as Mario, and he'll just code the whole controls and the flow, wherein the box acts as Mario. So that's how the prototyping is done, right? And simultaneously, when things are done here, the artists are finishing with stuff one by one. Those elements get implemented in this side of the development, right? So that's the collaborative effort between the art team and the programming team. So iterations keep on happening. As soon as the artists finish any sort of art piece, it's given to the programming team. They implement it, and they just try and finish adding all the assets in the development phase. So that's how both the processes work simultaneously. At the end of it, right? At the end of it, the third phase, which is together they create a build which we call as alpha build. Now, alpha build is a build which might have a lot of issues, but it has a complete flow of the game, right? So the game designer is responsible to get that build out, and that build is being tested internally. If they have a testing team, it's given to the testing team to check if there are any issues. So there are a lot of issues that come in two different categories. One is a functional category, wherein if a Mario is supposed to go straight, and if he's going on the other side, that's a functional issue. It's not functioning according to what it is required to do, right? And regression is when, if I'm making a mobile game, regression testing is basically people just use the phone and they just tap on whatever random things that they can do, right? So, and if they find any issues, then they have to report the same thing to the team of programmers and the artists that I did certain thing and this thing happened. Now, when I'm talking about these profiles, I spoke about game designer, I spoke about the game artist, the game programmer. Obviously, right now in India, Unity is one of the biggest tools, and everybody who is making games, 90% of people are making games on Unity, right? So they have knowledge about Unity and they're coding games on Unity, right? So what happens with this whole system is, once this team is finished and closing the development of it, the next phase, which is game testing, comes in place, right? When I say regression testing and I said about doing random stuff, game testers also need to be very smart to do the regression testing in a way that they can replicate or reproduce that bug. So when you are a game tester and you do regression testing and you do random stuff on your phone and there is a bug, how do you actually convey it to the programmer, right? You need to know what you did. You did 15 different steps and you gave the phone to the programmer and said, I did something and there was an issue. You can't do that. So people who think game testing is an easy job where you just sit and play games the whole day, you guys are wrong. It's a job of utter responsibility wherein you have to, you have to completely focus on on details of each and every bit of what you're doing as a game tester. Sometimes, I'll just give you a vague example. I don't know how many of you guys have played GTA Vice City, but everybody who quit GTA Vice City, they did it because they couldn't complete the helicopter level in it. It was like a level that really made a lot of people to just, I don't want to play this game, right? Where you plant the bombs on that toy helicopter, right? An RC controlled helicopter. Now, imagine if you're a game tester for GTA Vice City, you had to play that level 2000 times to figure out if there are any issues in that level. So sometimes what happens is you as a game tester need to play levels that you hate, parts of the games, and for bigger games, you know it, right? There are multiple great parts in the game, but there are some frustrating parts that you just want to clear and move to the next stage, right? But as a game tester, you need to play that level for 2000 times to just figure out if there are any issues. So again, if you still think game testing is an easy job, sorry guys, I am not with you. It's a very tough and a responsible job. So once the alpha build is ready, it's tested by the game testers. They find issues, they report it in an Excel sheet as bugs, and what did they exactly do to find that bug. And it's given to the team of game programmers. If there is certain thing which needs to be fixed in art, it's given to the artist. And this iteration keeps on happening till we have a gold build, right? Say a beta build, not a gold build, it's a beta build. And beta build is an almost ready build, which goes through a lot of iterations again, just to make sure that everything is perfect and fine. And the last is a gold build, which then goes out into the market. So that's how the process, the complete process of a game is. This is how people make games in any small mid-level companies in India. Now there are a lot of things when you make a game. This is just like creation of a game. There are multiple other things that are involved within this also, that I'll just talk in a bit and after this process also. But before that, let me just see if we have any questions. In terms of game design, how do you get into it? Like learning it. I see when I got into game design, I learned it completely in a company that I was working in. I joined as a trainee game designer where I didn't know anything about game design. And the people who were the game designers in that company, they taught me what game design is. For anybody at this stage, if you want to get into game design, the best way is to improve these skills that I mentioned, and create a portfolio of ideas, right? And a set of ideas, how you write it. The employer needs to know that you can think of out of the box ideas. That's one. Second, you can write beautifully. And third, you have to be very smart when you even talking to these employers, right? The best way to get into game design right now is to improve the skills, create a portfolio, and get an internship in any of the studios that you find, right? Then you can easily get into the community and go to bigger gaming companies. But the first step is to crack one internship where you go and learn a lot of stuff. There is another scam which is going on in India, which we call as the game design institutes. I'm really I'm very neutral. I'm not really targeting as such. But see, the thing is, I mentioned this in the last session as well. There is no, like, if you want to become an engineer, you've cleared your 12th, and if you want to become an engineer, you go in an engineering college and you come out as an engineer, right? If you want to become a doctor, you go in a medical college, you become a doctor. There is no college in India where you go in and become a game developer, right? So uh, everybody should first understand that this is the case. And at this stage, if you want to get into gaming, you need to do smaller courses that you find which are interesting and teach you certain aspects of certain things. Like a programmer needs to know what Unity is and how C# is used to make games in Unity. That's it. And then you do a lot of self-learning, right? You do a lot of self-learning. It's like an artist, for artists, you know that if you want to become a 3D artist, I need to know Maya. I need to know 3D Max. You can find a local institute who can teach you these tools, right? Nobody is going to teach you how to create a masterpiece. They can only teach you the toolbox. Even in art, right? They'll only teach you the toolbox. Which tool can be used for what? How you become skillful is practicing it daily. As I said about this 1,000 times on my YouTube, and I'll say it again. It's like guitar. If you buy a guitar and keep in one corner of your house and do nothing with it, you can't become a guitarist. Even if you just know the chords, right? You can't become. You need to pick that up and practice it daily for an hour to become a good guitarist. It's exactly same. You build your skills with these tools, but with the knowledge that these institutes have given you. कि ये tool करता क्या है? That's it. These are the tools that you can use to create something. You need to create something yourself, right? Same with the programming also. So don't go into this wild world of game design colleges which look fancy, which will take 10-20 lakhs from you, and at the end of the day you'll start with internship only. I'm saying just start with internship. Can you also talk about how in-game advertising is being done? In-game advertising is usually done in by multiple ways. But right now, so initially what used to happen was Google has AdSense, right, for websites. Similarly, Google has AdMob for mobiles. So people just take their SDKs, put it in their games where you see there's a bottom strip where ad is running, or a top strip, or a full screen, right? So ads basically are three types. One is the banner ad, which you see at the bottom and the top. The second one is the interstitial ad, which is a full screen ad, which is just an image. And the third is a rewarded video ad, which is not intrusive, but it's user's choice to click on it. And then, like, it's a simple example is you play Subway Surfer, you score 1,000 points, and there's a button which says double your points, right? It's a user's choice. People are not forcing you to watch that ad. But if you click on that double your coins, you'll see an ad. And after that ad, your coins will be doubled. So it's like user's choice. It's non-intrusive, and it's the most money-making mechanism innovated for advertising in games, right? But as a developer, if I want to put SDKs, I will not just put the Google AdMob SDK. Usually, like earlier, people used to do that. They'll only use one or two, advertising SDKs. But then the concept of the mediation came in place. Mediation is nothing but using multiple ad networks under one waterfall model. So I'll just use one big SDK. So one of those is Iron Source, which is very huge right now globally. So people just use Iron Source SDK, which in turn calls a lot of SDKs. And why is this done? Because of the fill rate. Fill rate is something which is like, if you have a banner ad at the bottom, not 100% of the times you'll see that banner, because the network is not able to fetch that ad for you. So if the network is not able to fetch that ad, the waterfall model pushes it to the second SDK. So if you don't see AdMob ad, you'll see the Unity ad over there. So that's mediation for you, and that's how you make more money. Instead of losing out ki ad dikhai nahi to paisa hi nahi hai, you end up getting 100% fill rate because of mediation. You just crushed my dreams. That's when the testing topic was going on. Hobby doesn't remain hobby if it becomes job. 100% Saurabh. From YouTube, a Technical house, if I purchase one Google Play Store account at today for my upcoming game, and at the time I give account name is as my name as, but I wish to change Google account name after a few days. Yes, you can change it. You can change it. Can you please elaborate the process of character development from concept to 3D to production? I think this can be done in a different session itself because it's a long process. Just to give you a brief, bigger gaming companies do this process. Yeah, in India there are companies who are there are only few companies who are making PC and console games which require concept artist as a profile, right? In bigger companies, in bigger AAA games, there's a set of there's a team of concept artists who first create the screens, and based on those screens only the models are created. In India, we don't follow that for smaller games. Only PC and console games try using that model. But definitely we'll get into that topic very soon in some other session because it's very exciting and it's a big topic to cover. What is the difference in making games part in movies and independent movies? What is the difference? What is the difference in making movie games is pretty easy compared to independent games because see, movie games basically are promo games. Advert gaming is what we call them, right? Wherein the objective is different. The objective of a movie game is to promote the movie. That's it, right? It's to promote the movie, and it has to reach out to as many people as you can. So using App Store, using the ASO, you just need to create a content which appeals that movie audience, and it just stays there. The objective is not to make money from that. That is that simple. The objective is not to make money, it's just promoting the game. Independent games are a lot more riskier business, wherein people literally put their whole life into it, their whole time into creating something that they love, they're passionate about. And it's very important for every independent developer to think about how is he going to recover that money, because you think that you're working on your passion project, right? But you're spending time and effort on it. Just for an example, let's say if you're making a puzzle game, three of your friends, let's say four of your friends are working on a puzzle game, right? And you guys are working on this game for 3 months. Even if it's like a part-time thing, you guys are working on this game for 3 months. Four of you guys, let's say you're working part-time on it. Let's just say you're working like 5 hours on it, and your value for 5 hours is say 20,000, right? If you're making say 50,000 in any company, let's just for the sake of the example, let's say 20,000 per person, right? Four of you are working on this game for 3 months. So you're basically spending 80 into 3, which is around 2.5 lakhs, is gone into making that game. That you're spending your time and effort into it. It's very important for you to figure out how are you going to make that money. If it's just like making it and just having fun with it, it's a different case. But anybody who thinks about a game as an independent, standalone passion project, they'll definitely have a lot of emotions connected to that game. So it has to have that ROI to it. How I can learn programming languages free online for gaming? You have your answer in your question, man. It's free online. YouTube is the biggest university where you have everything for free. The mistake that people do with YouTube tutorials is they just see the tutorials and they do nothing with it. The best way to utilize that is when you're watching tutorials, you need to simultaneously build that, implement that in Unity. When you do that continuously, you will, at one point of time, you'll be able to create your own stuff and not just, watch other people and replicate it. Probably you can also figure out a game concept, figure out the mechanics needed into it, and figure out the tutorials based on those mechanics, learn those tutorials and implement in your own game. I have completed my diploma in animation and VFX. How I can enter in a gaming industry? Create a portfolio on Behance or ArtStation. ArtStation would be preferable. Create your portfolio. If you have already completed your diploma in animation, you might have some work. Just create a good portfolio. Put out your work over there. Also use Instagram, and just start applying to the gaming studios. Right. Ideally, I would always say it's easier to get into gaming industry if you target internships, because people are willing to give opportunities at this point of time. If you just stick to having a full-time job with XX amount that you already have in mind, you would take a lot of time. Probably you might land a job if you have full confidence on your skills, but the best way to get into the industry is to get an internship, because then you have an opportunity. Even if it's like a unpaid internship, it's fine, because you're spending 2 months, you're learning a lot of things from the people, you're networking with those people, you're understanding the whole production cycle, you're connecting with people, you're learning the tips and tricks from everybody who is already working on those games, right? So the another benefit is you can just perform well and impress the people who are already there, who are watching you. You can easily get into full time in that company itself. And if you prove your worth, and if you prove that you're very important for the company, you can just be a full time in that company itself. Then later on, you can switch. Any game idea? I have a lot. Shreyas, if I can create 3D characters to an acceptable degree, is there a scope to earn a good amount from that? 100%. How a game designing and animation is related? Game design, Midhun Raj, I spoke about the difference in the first half of this session. If it's possible, just take a look at that after this session is over. No, क्या new game को promote करने की जरूरत है? Obviously every game, see, जैसे मैं बोल रहा था, like game development, the process that I explained, right? People are involved into it and all that stuff. To be honest, game development is just 30 to 40% of the job done, right? Then there is like 60-70% of things that you need to do, right? From app store optimizations, writing good descriptions, thumbnails, screenshots, reaching out to the app store teams to get your game featured, doing user acquisition, promoting your game on social media, marketing, talking to YouTubers, a lot of stuff that you need to do to make your game a success. Is it wrong to use 3D car model without permission? If it's free to use, you can use. If it's not, you can't. It's as simple as that. Okay, guys, the topic that I was supposed to touch base on, how games are made. I hope I cleared a lot of doubts, and I gave you a detailed explanation of how these games are made. Like I already mentioned at the beginning, that there are different ways to do this. Bigger game companies do it differently. Companies outside India do it differently, but this was majorly for the Indian studios, mid-scale and small-scale studios in India. So that was it for the session, guys. Thanks a lot for being connected to this session. I really had a very, very good time, talking about this on this platform. If you have any doubts, any queries, I run my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. Just search for my name, Vaibhav Chavan Underdog, and you'll find it. It has a lot of information, over 300 videos on the channel that you can just take a look at and learn a lot of things. It's all free. Just go subscribe to my channel and keep learning. Once again, thank you for having me here, Crater.club. I really had a great time. Everybody else, thank you for joining the session, and see you all in the next session. We'll be announcing the session.